How we doing? Yeah, that's a bit better. Just getting started, you know how it goes. Gotta get all my tools in order. I'm doing good too. Thanks for being with me. Let's hope my camera doesn't cut off this time. I had a good 4 hours 2 nights ago, then it cut and I just didn't come back. It was 4 hours after all. I don't know if it's a Twitch thing or an OBS thing or a me thing. I think it's a Twitch thing. I don't think it's a me thing, but yeah, live feed is there. Let's get all my lights down. We're going to finish this Priscacara today, and it's given me a major frustration. I keep looking at it and getting angry, and I'll show you why in a moment. Priscacara, fairly standard fish to be working on, but I took a look at it today, and I got confused. Got confused by something. Because if you were with me the other night, I had a good crowd. A lot of people saw things moving. Look at these dorsal spines right here. It's the skull there. The dorsal spines there. It looks great, doesn't it? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Where'd that one go? Because when I left you the other day, the tip of that thing was there. It was there. And I come in, and it's not. So what happened? Do I have some sort of gnome stealing the fin rays off of my fish? Was it a mistake I made? Probably. But what happened? It was there when I left. So you tell me. It is a source of frustration. Most people just put a little paint right there. Of course, I don't do that. I don't paint anything. As far as fish are concerned, this is almost done. Basically finished. I just have the tail to do. So I was going to knock out the tail on this stream. So here's the caudal fin, and if you look at a reference image up there, it has a nice caudal fin that fans out. And on the last stream, I added these lines here. These lines sort of guide me when I'm at high magnification, letting me know if I'm going out of bounds, out of boundaries, so to speak. The fossil woke up and broke itself out of spite. Yeah, we're just gonna go with that one. We're just gonna go with that one. Like, what? How? Honestly, I was, you know, this is a nice little Priscacara. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how to make a happy little accident out of that one either. Let me see your ISO. That looks okay. It's going to be what it's going to be. Caudal fin. Let's etch a bit of a canvas here. Gonna get some of this superficial oil shale up from above the fin before we go full on air abrasives. HW322 air scribe. I'll take your volume down a little bit. Wombat hole is here. Thanks everybody for being here. As always on the Fossil Prep channel, I am Steve. I'll be your guide. Today working on a Cockerelites liops. That's more commonly referred to as Priscacara, but recently signed out of that genus. We just call it Priscacara, but Cockerelites liops. We're working on the tail fin now. This is the last part. The rest of this has been prepped out on past streams. There's the skull. I was lamenting about the mysterious loss of the tip of this dorsal spine, which was there last stream, and then I come in here and it's not, so I think we have some sort of paranormal entity at work here, and I'd like everybody to help me come together and figure out who's taking the rays off of my fish, who's stealing them. We got to figure that out. And by the way, this fish, it might look big on stream, but specimen is fairly small. It was named on the last stream, so the rule is first to subscribe. If it's a new specimen, you get to name the fish. We do a first name and a last name. This doesn't have a surname yet, but doesn't really get one, because engraved in the back of the plate, Mr. Bubbles was my father. Mr. Bubbles was my father. So that's the name of this fish. What a wonderful time to be alive. Get to some air abrasion soon. This fish takes really well to air abrasion. It has a lot of voids and holes that we were dealing with last time. But even those thinnest portions of these fin rays here are coming out really nicely. very good question. So let's do some scale stuff. Gruken is asking about the size of the fish. So there's my finger on the skull, and I mean, how much does that say? We have our trusty RCI scale bar here, so each square being 1 centimeter. This is going to be in total about 11 centimeters once it's all prepped out. I'm zoomed all the way out. If I were to take this and get it close to the camera. On the smaller end for Priscacara, for Cockerelites. I think most people would say it's a bit smaller than they thought. That's because we're at high magnification the whole time. If that was a good reference or not, let me know. Many things we can compare it to. Here's my little Sakura Dragon 3D print. Makes this little guy look massive. Because I am working at about between 40 and 60 most of the time I'm doing this matrix stripping. 40 and 60 magnification. getting to the point where you can do some air abrasion. And I know everybody loves air abrasion. Oh, looks like we got a raid coming in. Hello, everybody. Hello. Clearburst says I got raided. Well, nice to see you guys here. Nice to see you guys. Anybody who wasn't on my last stream, we are working on a Priscacara today, and also a mystery. We have a frustrating mystery. I think there's a new cryptid on the verge of discovery, because I was looking over this fish just this morning, and before I did the stream, and I was looking over and I looked at these fin rays. I'm like, where is this one? Where did that go? That was there. I promise you, that was there. That didn't get blasted away like on the last stream. Like between me leaving the room and coming into the room, I'm missing a fin ray, and usually we chalk that up to human error, right? But I'm not going to chalk it up to human error. I think there's some sort of goblin or ghoul or something that came in. And I mean, look how cleanly it was sitting there, and then it's just gone. Where'd it go? Thanks for coming in, Danny. Tapers from the Green River Formation. No, I don't believe we have tapers. How far back does Tapiridae actually go is the question. So we're about 55 million years in the Green River Formation. So we're Eocene. We do have some nice early horse relatives. I've worked on some really fun creodont. At the time, we were calling them like creodontoids, but they seem to be true creodonts. Really tiny. One of the ones they did about this long from tail to snout. Yeah, awesome, spectacular fauna on the Green River. Yeah, Happy World Taper Day. Didn't know that was a thing. Glad to know it's a thing. Taperoidea goes back 50 million years, Danny's thinking. Yeah, probably. In terms of mammals, stuff starts looking the same as you approach early Paleocene. So I don't know, but maybe there's one sitting there waiting to be discovered. Well, thanks for everybody to being here with me. This is the Fossil Prep channel. I'm Steve Clausen. I'm going to be your prep guide this evening. We're working on, like I said, a fairly common species of fish in the unit. I've prepped rare things on stream, but we've done this whole thing on stream, and I figure maybe try to finish it. We just have the tail to go today, and like I said, this mysterious gremlin or ghoul or cryptid, you can help me figure out. This fin ray, it's missing. It's gone. What happened? So that's a small point of frustration. This is a somewhat frustrating fish because it almost is concreted, the matrix, where it touches the scales in places, and this will clean up in a second. This has just got some dust on it. But you see all these voids that are in and around the scales. I've been having difficulty dealing with them, but they are being dealt with. They are being dealt with. Just do a little more scribing, cutting this canvas off, and then we'll do some micro abrasives. People love that. You just sort of watch the matrix vanish away. It's very, very pleasing. Thanks, Danny. I'm getting in the groove, trying out a few new things here and there. The sound is the most difficult. No matter what kind of microphone, no matter what the algorithm is, I either sound like a robot or you can't hear me at all. You know what? I say screw it because the raiders are here. We might as well do some air abrasion. So I'm going to turn on that extractor. It gets a bit noisier when I do that, so I'm going to turn that on, kick your volume down, and I have chat with me here, so I will speak to you by toggling that up when need be. Do I have a cat? No. Maybe I should get a cat. We could, I don't want to copy Danny's segments, though. Yeah, a dentist drill. I do have a dentist drill that I use sometimes, so I won't turn that one on. Once again, sorry for the sound. There's a nozzle down here sucking all the dust out of the air, so I can stay alive and do these streams for you. But I am right here and I am listening. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Guess I can't have a cat. So just to explain for anybody who hasn't been here, I'm using microabrasives, so sodium bicarbonate sorted to 50 micron using a Priscacara Swan Blaster. There's only a few units that are good enough to do microabrasion at this scale, so 50 to 100x magnification. And I'm using a 30 micron diameter nozzle, 30 micron give or take. I have to check that again. And for those of you who are new, we do have sort of a recurring thing on the stream where the first to subscribe names the fish. This fish was unnamed as of yesterday, and then we had somebody pop in and name it, and once they did, I engraved the name on the back of the fish. It does not have a surname, although the first name is so long, it's like, I don't know what it could possibly do. The name of the fish is Mr. Bubbles was my father. Mr. Bubbles was my father, so give me a subscription. I will give it a last name of your choosing if you want. So that's what we're at with this guy. Just comes with the territory. Abrasive, it's not too expensive. This batch I bought laboratory sorted. There are ways you can sort your own, but I have found the standard great value Walmart brand of baking soda, which is very, very cheap, to be sorted pretty fairly, 50 to 100 micron. So at the lab at Badlands Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson, that's my day job. I manage that lab. I just buy up all of Walmart's baking soda stock, and it works just fine. What I'm not using right now that you will see be used here and there is iron powder as well. That's much more difficult to get your hands on. I source it out of Germany, and it's very pricey. Not so much the aluminum oxide, but I use aluminum oxide very rarely. For the most part, 90% of what I do is with the sodium bicarbonate. Along the fins, what is the reddish brown things? So what I think you're referring to are these marks right here, the ones with the cycloidal marks, the fingerprint markings. Those are scales. This fish has fossil scales, fossil pigments, tissue from the eye. If it had tissue, it was preserved here. So most of the time you buy a fossil fish on eBay or something, they've stripped the scales off of it. They've stripped all traces of that, of soft tissues. I wouldn't consider scales soft tissues. Soft tissues are more like what's preserved around the eye, spicules around the fins, gut contents, things of that nature. But this is all just like the bone, hydroxyapatite, so it's preserved here. Market Dickinson. What an interesting place to grow up. I can't imagine growing up in Dickinson. Not to knock on Dickinson, this is a small town in North Dakota. I'm from Chicago originally. That when it comes to the baking soda, the Walmart brand works. Always try to find a box that has the powder packaged in a bag, sealed in a bag. A lot of baking soda is sort of free floating in the box, so if you shake the box on the shelf, powder comes out. Try to find the stuff sealed in a bag because this stuff soaks up water really fast. It clumps really fast. So you want to keep it as dry as possible. And sometimes companies cheap out and don't even seal it. And so if you don't want to damage your equipment, especially, yeah, look for stuff that comes in a bag. Yeah, the leagues. I wonder, the leagues founded the Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson before we were city-owned, before we were Badlands Dinosaur Museum, and that must have been late 80s, early 90s that opened up. We're a different institution now than it was in the beginning. People in town right now, many of them don't know we have a dinosaur museum, so I don't know how much attention it's actually brought to town, definitely more in recent years. Did you like Gillette, Wyoming more or less than Dickinson? That's the question. Hit this a bit. definitely the best excuse to return. Come see the museum. Maybe wait a year and we'll have some pretty cool new extensions to the building, new exhibits and things like that. So maybe after next summer it'll be crazy cool looking. I'm glad people are getting some enjoyment out of it. I think it's kind of fun. How's my ISO? Bump that up a bit. I'm doing well too, Mooney Rose. Appreciate you popping in. If anybody's got questions, comments, concerns, I'm a professional preparator, 17 years now. Doing this professionally. My day job is dinosaurs. By night I do shale fossils like fish, like you're seeing here. I'm here to chill. I'm here to help you get your homework done. Whatever needs doing. So this species is Cockerelites liops, and I have an image of that in the upper right corner, an image of a finished specimen. It's a little dusted. Here. The rest of this, for the most part, is finished, and I've done it on stream for the most part. It's a percoid, so potentially related to perch. That went missing for some reason. Again, I keep looking at it, I get angrier and angrier every time I see it. Last stream, that fin ray was there, and now it's not. Explain to me how that happened. We're at the very tail end of the work. No puns intended. No puns intended. Some different things to work on in future streams too, so in a bit I'll show you a trilobite I could do. Then I have other fish I've been working on, an arowana relative, Feriotis, that was named on one of the earlier streams, Miss Mary, Feriotis testis. That's just sitting over there. I can show people some of the stuff I'll work on in the future. guess what's the largest fish I've worked on? I have to think about that. I have done a Ferriotis that was probably about a meter long, maybe just less than a meter. That'd be Ferriotis incaustus, and this is back at the Field Museum maybe 10 years ago. Did a couple very large Priscacara serrata, so Priscacara very similar to the fish I'm working on here, just huge. Those would have been upwards of two-thirds a meter. I'll use American, 20 inches, maybe 20 inches, maybe 35, 36 inches on the Ferriotis. Now, I prepared a host of fish from the Tanis locality. Connie Van Beek and I prepared all of the first Tanis fish in 2012 and 13. So we had sturgeon, mostly sturgeon, paddlefish, and gar. And if I remember right, a couple of the sturgeon exceeded a meter in length. If only whales were fish, because if only ichthyosaurs were fish, I've rubbed my fair share. I'm sure there's a bigger fish I've worked on. It's in the back of my head. Yeah, but the Tanis specimens are what's sticking out in the back of my mind. So yeah, so what I'm adding here and what I'm letting dry is a consolidant called Butvar B76. It's dissolved in 190 proof ethanol. So go to the liquor store, buy some Everclear, there's your solvent. It is an archival clear plastic bead, and it just dissolves right into the ethanol. And that ethanol has a high vapor pressure, so it just gets sucked into the sediment and the matrix. And then as it evaporates, it leaves the plastic behind to bind everything. I use this over super glue because it's reversible. So in science, we want adhesives that are reversible, and it also penetrates better. Even the pores between the grains of the sediment soak it up. Then you have to step back and let it dry a little bit before continuing. I have done thousands of fish. I mean, I've done birds too. I've done tiny fossil mammals. I mean, if it's in shale, you name it, I've probably touched it. 17 years of doing it professionally, you run into a lot of different things. I did a bird leg on stream just, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I can do more of that sort of thing. Problem is, a lot of the projects on that tier are more or less embargoed, so there are certain things I can't project to the world. Some things that I can film and then create a long-form YouTube video on in the future. So I did that just recently with a fossil mammal jaw from the Campanian from one of our sites in northern Montana. So if you go to Natural History Studio on YouTube, Natural History Studio, that's my personal YouTube channel where some of the more interesting streams get re-uploaded, and I also have some curated videos with some more exciting fossils involved. My powder flow. man, I'd show the whole world if there weren't pieces of paper and signatures involved that could throw me into court. But trust me, everything you can see, I will show you. And I don't flex enough, I think. I don't flex enough, so I'm gonna grab something 1 minute. Turn off that extractor just a second. So if you want to see some of the work that I've done, pick up this book. Let's sneak it in here. This is The Lost World of Fossil Lake by Lance Grandy. I did a lot of my first work for Lance. The first 5 years of my career, a lot of projects for Lance, specifically the Green River Formation. Now, most of the fossils in this book will have been worked on by Connie Van Beek, and there isn't a name put to every single fossil. But Connie and I signed some of each other's work in our own copies of the book. So here's one thing I did. This is one of those creodonts. And if you own the book and open it up to page 266, you get a better look at Paleocenopa didophoides. So I did one of the parrot-type specimens of Paleocenopa, in addition to a lot of things in this book, including plants. Nope. Recognize that. Just in looking at the plants, I'm like, yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. But yeah, this whole book, Connie and I collaborated on this fern here. And that's figure 187B, undescribed legume. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in this book. So, an ode to Connie Van Beek, myself, and some other preparators of the Green River. Check out The Lost World of Fossil Lake by Lance Grandy. I wonder, that's a good question, is there a link to the book? It's still for sale. I'll just throw a nod to Fossil Era there. Fossil Era is selling a copy, and you know that's about the price I've seen it go for in the past. And once it's out of print, watch this skyrocket to more than $100. It's a really nicely printed book. Lots of fun stuff. There's an aspiration plate with a myoplosis. That's where a fish dies after getting another fish stuck in its throat. Lost our fish there. So, a lot of the work I've done, even though my name isn't on everything, my past is locked in inside a lot of the specimens in that book. guess I'll bring up, I'm promoting Lance's book in a way there. He just retired, successful career as a researcher, all of that, but between that and the holotype sturgeon from the Tanis site that I prepared, you won't see my name in that paper, and you won't see my name. I don't even think you see Connie's name in that book. You don't see credit to the preparation, my preparation in particular. So I'm letting you know, yes, I worked on a ton of stuff in that book. Yes, I did the Tanis fish, but researchers are still only just being more aware of the tremendous amount of work that goes into fossil preparation, and not necessarily us deserving authorship on papers, but we do deserve to be in the acknowledgments on these scientific papers. So, and the data is tracked. We know in our museum, we know every person who's touched a fossil before it goes into collections. That's in our database. That can easily be accessed by anyone publishing on the material. And anybody who walks through Badlands Dinosaur Museum and ends up publishing a paper, they all credit the preparators. So you won't see much credit to me in that book or in reference to the sturgeon holotypes from the Tanis site, but there really should be. There really should be. Yeah, everyone. Definitely. Everyone. From the people who dig up the fish to the people who prepare it, people who catalog it. I would agree. And I'm a dual preparator and researcher, so I am a degreed paleontologist, so I can with my academic hat confidently say preparators need credit in the acknowledgments and sometimes as an authorship, especially in a couple cases that came up recently. I do recommend everybody have a copy of that book, of course, but the biggest way you could help me, if you want to help me personally, is to follow my page. I wouldn't even talk about subscribing. Just follow my page so you get the notifications when I go live. I don't always abide by my schedule. I have a full-time job, sometimes working 40 or more, upwards of 50 hours a week. And that sometimes impedes on my schedule. I might pop in randomly tomorrow, and if you have some homework to get done, you want to chill out with me, you won't know I'm doing this unless you get that notification. And having that list of followers there, that helps push this channel forward. I'm not doing this for personal profit. I'm trying to bring attention to fossil preparation at large, how most preparators are falling behind, whether they're commercial or academic. We have to stand on our 2 feet and realize when we're making mistakes and how to address them. And Badlands Dinosaur Museum. So in lieu of probably not being able to receive many federal grants for fossil preparation and research, we're looking to the private sector now. And one way you can help us out is go to our throne, which is linked on my homepage, my channel's homepage, the throne for Badlands Dinosaur Museum. That's under Dickinson Museum Center. I know it's a little confusing. And you can for 2 hours of fossil preparation, a whole day of fossil preparation, and not to me, to a contractor. So we hire contract preparators. Right now we have Deanna Neff full-time. Deanna Neff, a wonderful contract preparator who does all of our tiny stuff, our little pygmy Astarchid, our raptor skull bones, the really thin, delicate stuff like what I'm working on here. Pocket Paris, hey, nice to see you. Lurkers are great. I love lurkers. Anybody who gets a kick out of this. This here is a scale that does not belong to our fish. It's too big. That to me looks like a Notagonius scale. I could be wrong. It might be a Notagonius scale. Get too addicted to fossil preparation, or that hole might grow a little bit. reiterate, I am actually working on this thing in fast mode. So this is a fairly common fish. It's the rarer of the more common genera of fish in the unit, but I want to get to doing some other things too. So next stream, I want to work on something different. So I was hoping to finish at least most of the tail of this guy today. So you see me going a little quicker, leaving sediment in places, maybe letting a crack or two go, whereas if it were like a fossil bird or a holotype mammal or something, I would be much more slow. I'd be using the pin vices more often. The Creation Museum was one of the chosen heads for this stream. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Triassic 13 says, see you in July. Triassic 13, I don't have usernames like burned into my head. Are you field crew? I think I know who you are, but I'm forgetting. Yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll get you out to the Anki site. I'm running the notosaur dig this year, ankylosaur notosaur. Denver thinks it's a notosaur. I don't care. It's got spikes on its back. It's got a big butt. It's fun. And honestly, I think probably a little more pleasant digging than jacks, because jacks you just keep running into things. I think jacketing at the notosaur site is a little more pleasurable, but that's just me, maybe because it's mine. So this fish died in Fossil Lake, which was a major lake in the Fossil Lake system. It was a system of 3 lakes in the Eocene about 55 million years ago. The sediment it's buried in is it's more of a limestone. There aren't any sand grains. It's technically considered an oil shale. There are some layers. Those dark brown layers are very oily. When you're actually out there working, splitting the plates in the broad sun, there are little pools of oil that you watch evaporate away. And they're sort of confined and hosted in these denser layers of limestone. So you're seeing little crystals of calcium carbonate rather than silica. Scope, you see some of those grains are going to be baking soda. When I pull out, I mean, I'm still at 10 magnification here, so I can see it looking like sand under a scope. Much finer than sand. That's really what fossil preparation is. Removing sediment from bone without removing the bone. And as we've learned, sometimes no matter what, you do end up removing some of the bone. All fossil preparation is inherently destructive in one shape or form. Is this a case? I still think we have a cryptid on our hands, because I left the room yesterday and this dorsal fin spike, the tip of it was there, and then I come here today and we have no tip. What happened? Where'd it go? That should have been able to stay there pretty easily. So if you got a name for our cryptid, please let me know. Our resident goblin, ghoul, whatever stole the tip of that fin. But fossil preparation is the art of keeping that bone and soft tissue. So here you see fossil scales, those orange patches between the bones. We're keeping it all here. And so all the tools and consolidants and things that I use, it's all toward that one singular effort of keeping the bone there, keeping the bone intact. So right now I've been using a Crystal Mark Swan Blaster, a retrofitted Crystal Mark Swan Blaster to pump 50 micron particles of baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, under, let's see, we're at 20 psi. And so you blast the fish with the sodium bicarbonate, and it's just enough to strip the matrix without doing too much damage to the bone. But you see that there are hundreds, thousands of these little microfractures running through everything, and especially a fish that I'm speed running like this, it's hard to keep every single thing intact, and by naked eye you don't see any of it. But the point is, on this stream I'm trying to treat every fossil, even the common fossils, as if it were a fossil bird with feathers, a fossil snake with its lungs intact, you know, that sort of deal. Yeah, so Cass, Triassic 13, is asking about the Tanis fish. So I was one of the first two preparators to work on the Tanis material. That is, the first two academic preparators. So Robert De Palma had nothing to do with the site initially. A professional fossil collector named Rob Sula, he found the site, I think probably back in the mid-2000s, and I mean, from what I remember talking to him and talking to Lance and people who received the fish blobs from him, is that he thought it was a fun site, but he got bored because it was just fish. He found a bunch of fish, and he took some for himself, and he donated the rest to the Field Museum. And for what they are, they're cool. We have blocks full of fossil sturgeon, gar, all tangled together. I did a paddlefish as well. And they're all in a remarkable state of preservation that's identical to F1 Green River preservation. Much more difficult because they're in claystone and sand that's very soft. Their matrix is much softer, so there's a lot of crazy stuff we had to do to keep the fish intact, especially the scales and some of those pigments. And sturgeon scales have all sorts of tiny little projections on them. It was a heck of a project that I haven't been credited for still, by the way. Most of the preparators have not been credited. So, I mean, take it from Rob, and I can tell you the entire time we worked on those fish, I think I periodically worked on them between 2011 and 2015. Not one dinosaur bone. And this is what Rob said, too, of the site. He got bored because there are no dinosaur bones. So, you stand on the left or the right of this Tanis debacle. The question is Tanis a hoax? My answer is yes and no. Yes, it's a wonderful site full of maybe late Cretaceous, possibly early Paleocene fossil fish, but I don't believe for a second there's anything but fossil fish there. There could be a couple of reworked ribs from a duckbill or something, but that's my my input. So the Tanis fish would have been in the Intercontinental Seaway. well, they would have been in tributaries of the Intercontinental Seaway, so freshwater. This fish is freshwater. It's from the extinct fossil lake system from the Eocene of southwestern Wyoming. So this would have been I think Lance published it was freshwater alternating brackish seasonally. So that's why we find a lot of fish that are that can be found in saltwater environments. So we have stingrays. I just did a stingray from the Green River. We could do a ray one day. Maybe I'll arrange doing a ray on stream. So I don't sell fossils. So I'm a member of the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. So I'm not against the commercialization of the Green River Formation in particular. There are so many fish. I invite everybody to learn from my stream, and so there are sellers in places like eBay that sell unprepared fossils you can get your hands on pretty easy. Learn to do it yourself. I do contract out for anyone, so if somebody has a fossil to work on and they match my rate, then they'll ship it to me and I'll work on it for them, I'll finish it, I'll ship it back. And so I've worked for private collectors, I work for museums, galleries, all of the above, but I don't go out and sell fossils. I don't put them to market myself. Does that sort of answer some questions about Tanis? There are probably different levels of understanding when it comes to the Tanis situation. B72. Challenge on this fish has been all these voids that are running through and underneath the scales. Just trying to manage everything while pumping thick consolidated underneath. Still with me? just using an air scribe for this, so I figured I'd turn off that abrasive extractor. My voice can come out a little more clearly. Have this overburden of oil shale to go through. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate the feedback on the audio as I try to get better and better at finding a balance. Especially newcomers here, you know, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more going on than it looks like, so we haven't even covered the part of compressed air and drying the lines, de-oiling the lines. I have a compressor on the other end of the house with hoses being pumped into this lab. You need your air as dry as possible. You want nothing in the air. And that's all happening elsewhere. So it looks like I have this fun pointy tool that I'm running compressed air through. But just to get the air nice and dry, it's so much of that. I mean, just to get the camera plugged into the scope so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. It's nuts. This tool I'm using, this is a German tool. You've seen it before if you watched the stream. This is an HW322. Possibly the most fine and ergonomic air scribe ever made. The problem is only one guy makes them, Hardy Winkler. Their distributors are Stone Tool Company in the US, and the backlog for these things, I'm told, is about like 2 years right now, something like 2 years. And he's getting older. You don't see the air scrubbers around me taking the excess dust out of the air. It's the particles we really can't see that do the most damage. And obviously it takes a lot of time to build up to a setup like the one I have, you know, like a really nice scope, a nice compressor, you know, the air abrasives, everything. But there are ways to do this well that won't break the bank. I've talked about it before. I was on the note of air compressors. Just a quick thing that everybody could be doing better. I saw a couple photos on, I think it was the Fossil Forum recently, and I sort of scream into the void. I see someone set up with an air compressor right next to their chair, and they have a little hose going from the compressor to the air scribe. I'm talking a hose that might be 6 to 10 feet long, with like a small desiccant dryer. It's not how you do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you're using a scope, you can't keep your air compressor near you. There are too many vibrations. You're not going to be able to do any work under the scope. You want your compressor far away as is. But to have dry air lines, you want a very long air hose hooked up to begin with. So don't hook up a 5-foot hose to an air scribe, you know, and stick it onto your compressor. Hook up a 100-foot hose to your compressor. Even if you only need 10 feet of room, buy a 100-foot hose. I have 200 feet of hose on my compressor right now. I don't even need half of that. But that surface area gets rid of most of the water for you. So you're not drying or dumping your desiccant every 3 or 4 hours. You know, the hose gives water a chance to build up before it has to be dried through whatever system you use. I use a motor guard system. I love the motor guard system. If you're into compressed air, you'll probably know what I'm talking about, but I have no problems with moisture in my lines when I do that. Little tangent. I'll add to that, most of you who have seen me on stream or have done fossil preparation on your own or are familiar with it, how often do you see me stop and re-oil the air scribe when I'm using it? Not very much, right? I haven't done it in a very long time. In fact, the one I'm using right now, I have never oiled it ever, this HW tool. The perfectly tuned air scribe does not need oil at all. So you can't have any oil in your airlines. You don't even add drops of oil to the tool. I do use silicone and lithium grease on a couple different components, and I will re-grease occasionally. Even on push plate tools that do need a little drop of oil every once in a while, if your lines are truly dry and empty of all particles, of all particulate, you still shouldn't need to be adding much oil. Tools you add oil to, you know, like the paleo tools, the microjack line, they spit oil on the fossil after you add oil, so I don't, hold on, I don't quite understand it. Of course, I learn as I go on. I mean, these Paleo Tools microjacks, these were the Ferraris, the creme de la creme when I started out, but then you use finer and finer tools, you just get to know them. Look at the vibration on that tip. Watch how it rotates. So this microjack rotates and spits oil. Look how very little wobble I have on this HW. Such little wobble. compared to off position, and it doesn't rotate at all. It's locked in place, which means I can sharpen this any way I want, and it's not going to obscure or damage the quality of my movement, I should say. Yeah, and this is supposed to be a fine tool, but it looks violent next to this HW. I will give Zoic Paleotech a plug though, because they have a tool very similar to the HW322. It almost looks designed right off the 322. It's called the Velour. I'll have one here to use soon, and we'll compare the two, but the Velour is looking like the most attainable fine air scribe you can possibly get. Its tip also locks in place, and it has that soft spring, hard spring action just like the 322. And unlike paleo tools, this thing I just showed you, $800. $800 you want one of those. Zoic Velour, I think they're charging something like $500, $550 for the base model, which is not bad for something much better built. Okay, so I'm going to drop in with a bit more air abrasion, do a bit more air abrasive, do a bit more with the air abrasives, and then probably call it a night if people are okay with that. So maybe another 15-20 minutes. Let me know if there's anything else I haven't touched on. If you're here, introduce yourself. Hello, let yourself be known. It's going to get a little more loud, but people like the air abrasion, don't they? Let me know, Terminator Pig. I figure if I'm going to work on fossils, I might as well broadcast them when I can. My next scheduled stream is Saturday night at 11 p.m. Mountain Time. I know it sounds late, but I will go for 5 hours. I have a lot of engagement, those late night streams. And of course Mondays at 7, but I pop in unscheduled pretty frequently throughout the week, so I might even pop in tomorrow at 6 or 7. Sometimes 8 o'clock. It just depends on how I'm feeling, you know. It's a vibe sort of thing. But my formally scheduled days are Saturdays at 11 and Mondays at 7 Mountain Time. I am nocturnal as well. up and fold it over, yeah, that happens pretty frequently actually. If they're locked in a plate like this, there's not much you can do other than expose what's on the surface and leave it be. In some cases, you can do transfer preparation. There's a trilobite we might do some of that on. In transfer preparation, you add a backing to a fully prepared surface. I often use propylene glycol, that's carbo-wax, and cheesecloth. And effectively, it's a fake matrix. It acts as a strong barrier in the case that you flip the fossil over and expose what's on the other side. Because when a fossil's curled up, maybe there's some details on the other side that might show you a little bit about what's missing. And it depends on what the curator wants. Typically, I try not to do that if I don't have to. bottle fin a little more until I run out of canvas, so to speak, and I'll think about wrapping it up. Anybody from Danny's stream still watching? I appreciate you being here. It's always fun to have a Danny raid. All these people come in and get excited about fossil preparation. Tell me about what you liked, and think about hitting that follow button so you know when I go live, because I don't have a strict schedule most of the time. It's pretty random. Thanks for being here. Thanks to you as well, Terminator Pig and Sloppy Salamander. All my regulars, appreciate it. Oh, I have computer problems for you. I've been having plenty of those, but I'm lucky today our camera hasn't shut off yet, so that's good. what matters. Thank you for being here. Part that I'm on here, the part that I'm on now, this all just gets painted in by commercial preparation outlets and many academics and professionals. Neither do a lot of preparators. That's why that bit gets blasted away and then gets painted back in. But 100 magnification. This is double the magnification most labs with microscopes are even capable of doing. And you see how it's possible to extract that detail. That's the whole goal of this show here. Well, there's still some canvas to go on this caudal fin here. There's still some air scribing that I need to do to give way for a last round of air abrasion, but other than that, other than a few spots to touch up on, the fish is basically done. I don't think this guy will show up on stream again unless people beg for him. There's that eye. Remember, we prepped all the eye tissue out. It's mostly carbon now, and other minerals. And then, I mean, just the greatest tragedy of all is our yet unnamed cryptid, who seems to have come in the middle of the night and taken this the tip of this dorsal fin ray. It was there yesterday, and now it's not there, and it frustrates me to no end. There must have been a microfracture running through there. Well, no, you know what? I'm not going to explain it. It was a goblin of some kind. It was a ghoul. I don't know what did that. But overall, really nice Priscacara. You can see the patterning in the scales here. So maybe I'll bring it back on stream. This is a fish that was named by a subscriber. When you subscribe, you get to name a fish. Mr. Bubbles was my father, so I'm forced to engrave the name into the back of the fish, and so forever this is Mr. Bubbles was my father. But Cockerelites liops, I say Priscacara because for many, many decades it was Priscacara liops, and about 10 years ago it was reassigned by Lance Grandy to Cockerelites liops, but most people still use the word Priscacara to refer to this particular genus and species of fish. I have a real Priscacara here we can talk about soon, but tomorrow I might do some, well, tomorrow if I come in, I'm thinking about jumping in around 6 or 7 p.m. to do another stream. Something more interesting, something more rare, but for a common fish, this has been a fun one to work with. It's gotten kind of crazy, all these voids here that I've had to deal with. So there are a bunch of little miniature caves running through all of the scales and things in this fish, and so I've had to pump a lot of consolidant into the voids to fill them so I could put some pressure down on them and try to get detail out of those regions. But today you saw how I get those thinnest tendrils of caudal fin out. And this is what distinguishes academic preparation from commercial preparation, where you might have a guy, the preparator might take 2 hours to do the whole fish, and they'll paint in all the scales and things like that. It's just a shame to me. This has all been very academic, except for that the goblin stole it. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I bet it's on the floor somewhere. Or not, or it's in like the goblin's den. So this is from the Green River Formation. That's Eocene. It's about 55 million years old. And I was talking on the stream earlier, if you want to see more of the work that I've done, Let me re-angle this. If you want to see more of the work I've done, pick up this book. This is, I thought I had autofilled, The Lost World of Fossil Lake by Lance Grandy. This is all about the Green River Formation, specifically the F1 beds, or the 18-inch layer, where this fish and almost everything else I've worked on stream are from. This is a very good color guide to all the different fossils. So we have birds there and things like that, but a lot of these specimens in this book are specimens I worked on. Me and Connie Van Beek and Mike Eklund, Akiko Shinya, our work is frequently appears in this book. Now, are we credited? Of course not. We're preparators. Of course not. Why would we ever be credited? But we did sign each other's work in our own copies of the book. So I see some of Connie's signatures in here. I can work on some of the taxa in here. I did a lot of the plants that are in this book, actually. I did a mammal fossil, that one I showed earlier, so I did some of the mammals, including this one, Paleocinopa, Didalphoides. I think this ended up being the parrot type. But, you know, I've been a preparator for 17 years now. Probably 18. It's going to be 18 pretty soon. Whoa. So I've been around the block with this stuff. I do some of the more common stuff under the scope because I want to try to show you what to do should you get your hands on an unprepared fossil fish. I bet you could go into eBay and find one of these right now for, you know, not I don't imagine they're super expensive, a common unprepared Priscacara, and then you could use some of the knowledge here, or use me as a resource. Buy yourself a beginner microscope, pop into the stream, ask me questions. I'm a preparator, I'm live, I am here to help you with your fossil preparation woes. You could think of it as a computer repair service for preparators. Yeah, so Baranoshu, I think most of what I do these days is larger dinosaur fossils. So you're seeing me in the lab that I own working on shale fossils, which is my passion, but by day I manage the lab at Badlands Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson, North Dakota. We're a federal repository and we are mostly big dinosaur fossils. So I've got a articulated tibia fibula from a Procerolophus from one of our sites in northern Montana that I'm going to jump into tomorrow morning. And then I'm going to pivot into a fully articulated tyrannosaur in a sandstone concretion. And I've streamed from that before, so it might not be archived on Twitch anymore, but if you go to my YouTube, Natural History Studio, you can find some more of the dinosaur-y stuff that I've done, including a mammal jaw from the dinosaur age. So most of my life has been mired in dinosaur fossils. It's just like these shale fossils, the fish and stuff, they're an escape for me. But occasionally I will go and stream from the dinosaur lab. It's a little more difficult when I don't have a microscope camera, and a lot of dinosaur bone work is not done under a microscope. But I spend about half the time still under a scope when I'm there. And I also have to have all sort of special lenses so my camera doesn't get damaged. It's easier to control damage when I'm in the shale fossil lab. Yeah, I mean, I think working on the Tyrannosaur, we have a complete articulated, it could be a Gorgosaurus, more likely a subadult Daspletosaurus, could be Daspletosaurus wilsoni. We have the holotype of wilsoni, and we're working in the wilsoni lens of the dinosaur park formation. It's an exciting specimen, but it takes so long to work on that on stream you don't see much more than bulky matrix removal. I use a Zoic Bronto. It's a huge air scribe. You can almost wield it with 2 hands, 2 fists. But that work is really hard on the wrist, really, really hard. So I have to alternate the work on that. When I'm streaming here at night, I'm streaming from my own lab, the business that I own, where I mostly do work for fun, honestly. I like working on fish. When I was at the Field Museum in Chicago, as a day job, I did a lot more shale fossils. I did a lot more fish, and so I don't get as much of an opportunity anymore, but this is my excuse for that. Hey, thanks for subbing to my YouTube. I really appreciate that. And that's where my streams get re-uploaded. I don't re-upload every single stream. I don't, or else it'd just be like a vomit of streams, but I do occasionally upload the more interesting ones, so I'll take a look at this one, see if I'll throw that up. But as always, I appreciate everybody for being here, all my regulars for continuing to support me, my new subscribers, my new followers, even if you're just still here from when Danny sent you all by. Thank you, and let me know in the next stream, what keeps you around. Make sure to follow so you have that notification when I go live. I do have a schedule, but I often pop in pretty randomly. My schedule is Saturday at 11 p.m. Mountain Time. It's late, but I have a good crowd there. A lot of regulars from Australia and New Zealand, and I also do Mondays at 7 p.m. So this was my regularly scheduled stream, but I'm thinking about popping in tomorrow. So hit that follow. Do the whole like, subscribe on YouTube, Natural History Studio. Trying to think if is there anything else? Oh, one last question. Does it take months or years to prepare the big fossils? It depends. I did the sacrum from this Prostrolophus. It took me about 6 weeks, but that's not 6 weeks with 8 hours a day on the fossil. That's more like 6 weeks with 3 or 4 hours a day on the fossil, and then doing other things in between. This tibia and fibula, I expect, will be more of a 2 or 3 week job for both of them, but that's because they're in a softer sandstone. The articulated tyrannosaur we have is in a concretion that's really hard to work with. The rock is abrasive, it's tough, it's nasty. We chew through tips, we go through tools like crazy. I've been working on that for 3 years now. Almost feels like 7 years, because 7 years is the first time I set eyes on it in the field was 7 years ago, and now it's like we brought a dig site to the lab. If you go on the YouTube, you could see the video from me when I tried to do a stream on it. You see me removing a bunch of matrix, but the type of rock surrounding the bone and the quality of the bone, how soft it is, how brittle it is, how porous it is, those two things are going to have a astronomical impact on how much time it takes to finish. But also if you're using a microscope. I use microscopes for even the dinosaur bones. Not all the time, not for everything, but you need them to see some of the pores, the foramen, to see whether or not you're scratching. And a microscope slows work down a little bit. So I do see some labs crank out fossils kind of quickly, but if I put a little magnifying glass to them, I see all kinds of scratches on them, and that's not fun. That's not fun at all. But stick around and you'll be able to learn more about all of those things. And I'm very glad that we've held on to our scope camera this whole stream without it cutting. So with that luck, I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. I might be here tomorrow. I'm not going to commit to that, but let's say 70% chance I'll be here tomorrow night around 7 p.m. we'll say. And thanks to you for being here again. To the Fossil Prep channel. My name is Steve Clausen, and I'll see you later.